In 1942, in the heart of Nazi-occupied Poland, there was a border that even the SS was afraid to cross. It wasn't guarded by soldiers or landmines. It was guarded by a sign. To the German High Command, that sign meant one thing: epidemic typhus. A deadly, lice-borne fever that could wipe out an entire division of soldiers in weeks. The Nazis were so obsessed with purity and so terrified of disease that they had a standing order: do not enter a quarantine zone. Do not deport its inhabitants. Just leave it alone. Little did they know, there was no plague. The epidemic was a masterpiece of scientific fraud. Behind the quarantine was a young doctor named Eugene Lazowski. He was armed with nothing but a syringe and a secret formula, and he was about to pull off the greatest medical heist in the history of warfare. He was going to save 8,000 lives by making them look like they were already dead. Eugene Lazowski was a young Polish doctor who had already survived a Soviet POW camp and escaped a moving train. By 1942, he was practicing medicine in the town of Roswado. Every day, he watched the liquidation of nearby ghettos. He knew his neighbors were next. One day, a friend and fellow doctor, Stanisław Miculec, made a bizarre discovery. He found that if you injected a person with a dead strain of a specific bacterium Proteus OX19, it did something strange to the human body. It didn't make the person sick. They had no fever, no rash, no symptoms at all. But if you took their blood and ran a wild Felix test, the exact test the Nazis used to identify typhus, it would come back as a strong positive. Lazowski realized he had stumbled upon a weapon. If he could trick the Nazi labs into thinking his town was the center of a massive typhus outbreak, the Germans would be too terrified to send anyone there. The deportations to the death camps would stop. The plan was incredibly dangerous. If the Nazis discovered the ruse, Lazowski and his family would be executed immediately. He began infecting his patients. When someone came to him with a common cold or a mild fever, he would tell them they needed a protein injection. In reality, he was giving them the dead Proteus bacteria. He then sent their blood samples to the German-controlled labs. Soon, the reports started piling up on the desks of Nazi health officials. Positive for typhus. Lazowski was careful. He didn't infect everyone at once. He mimicked the natural spread of a real epidemic, starting in one neighborhood and slowly moving to the next. The Nazis panicked, fearing the disease would spread to the German garrison nearby. They declared the entire region around Roswado a quarantine zone. For the people inside that zone, both Jews and non-Jewish Poles, the horror of the deportations suddenly stopped. The fake plague had created a sanctuary. By late 1943, the Nazis grew suspicious. How was it possible that thousands of people tested positive for typhus, but the death rate in the town hadn't spiked? They suspected foul play. The Berlin High Command sent a team of elite medical inspectors to Roswado to verify the plague. This was Lazowski's do-or-die moment. He didn't hide. Instead, he welcomed the inspectors with a massive feast. He plied the senior German doctors with expensive vodka, kielbasa, and music. While the senior officers were busy drinking, he took the junior doctors to the infirmary. Lazowski had prepared a room filled with the oldest, skinniest, and most sickly-looking patients he could find, people who actually had pneumonia or other non-contagious ailments. The room was dark, smoky, and smelled of rot. The junior Nazi doctors, terrified of catching the plague themselves, only stood in the doorway. They took a few blood samples from the infected patients, saw them shivering in the dark, and fled the building. The samples, of course, came back positive. The inspection team returned to Berlin and confirmed the plague was real. Roswado stayed off limits. Eugene Lazowski and his partner saved an estimated 8,000 people from certain death. But here is the most incredible part. He didn't tell anyone. Even after the war ended, Lazowski remained silent. He moved to the United States and became a quiet pediatrician in Chicago. He lived in fear that if the story got out, that the remnants of the Nazi regime or even the Polish communist government might retaliate against him or the survivors. It wasn't until 1990, nearly 50 years after he first picked up that needle, that he finally told his story. He didn't want fame. He didn't want medals. He simply said, "I was not able to fight with a gun or a sword, but I found a way to use my profession to save my people." Eugene Lazowski proved that sometimes the most effective way to defeat an army of hate isn't with a bullet. It's with the truth, even if that truth is a very clever lie. This is Q History. If you think the world should know the name Eugene Lazowski, hit the like button and share this video. Who is the next hidden hero you want to hear about? Tell us in the comments.